Alright guys, now we are back again to do a new project. So this project is a very unique one. It's actually a tortoise house built in the form of a 3D cabinet. So you can see over here, this is something that is very unique for me. It's my first time doing. Well, the reason is because it has a built-in ramp to allow the tortoise to climb up the different tiers. So without further ado, let us get into the fabrication of the design products. Alright, as usual, the first thing that I always do is to cut the wood, and luckily this time round the table saw has been fixed and I'm very glad that it happens. The next step is to build the base. Now you can see there's a depression over here with a small little hole. So this rectangular hole, what is being requested by the owner is to put the substrate for the tortoise to create an conducive environment for the tortoise to live in. So the next step, I make use of a block to draw out the lines. So the lines are demarcated for me to drill in the screws to tighten and to secure the whole structure up. And being seen over here, I make use of pilot hole first as usual. Now the purpose of the pilot hole is to ensure that instead of drilling in the screws directly, it may cause any split or breakage on the surface of the plywood, which is what I do not want it to happen. So that's the reason why I do it with a pilot hole. And next up is to drill in the screws to tighten. Now you can see over here with the pre-demarcated and pre-piloted hole. So things are easier for me as I just take my time to secure it. And I make use of the chest clamp that I bought to hold the whole carcass together, so it's much easier for me. Well, next up, taking some offcuts of the plywood. So I cut it to exact length. Okay, this is what I do to mark out the dimension and also the exact space for me to do the pilot hole, for me to secure the different panels together into the whole structure. Alright, so next up is to cut out the hole for the entrance for the ramp. As you can see over here, I want it to be exact measurement, so that's why I do a second test first to ensure that everything is in exact formation before I use the jigsaw to cut out the lines that have been marked. And I'm doing it slowly to ensure that the lines are cut as close as possible, making use of a spirit level to check to ensure that it is flat for the surface for the panel, because we don't want it to be at a weird angle where the tortoise is climbing and it sort of like fall off or fall down due to the angle difference. After it's being done, I take the door frame to do a test fit to ensure that things are able to fit nicely, as you can see over here. Now, before moving on to do the last panel, the top tier panel, where I just make use of the two long boards that I intend to use as the door to act as a support. Now, next up, using the miter clamp to hold the supporting beam down, where I continue to do the screwing. Next up is to make use of the trimmer with a jig to cut out the hole for me to put the acrylic. Now using the trimmer is so much easier for me instead of using jigsaw. The reason is because jigsaw is not able to cut such a straight line by myself, as I'm not a very good person who can concentrate in cutting such a long straight line. Using a trimmer with a jig makes things so much easier and more precise. And for the other part of the door, I make use of this flush trim trimmer to trim things down where everything will be equal and precise as compared to using the long method of the trimmer with the guiding jig. Alright, so now doing a test fit to see how things works. So as you can see, I'm very happy because every door frame are able to fit nicely. So the next step is to add in the hinges. As usual, what I did over here is to do the pocket hole first before tightening them down with the screws. Now for the other part of the hinge that is to be attached to the body itself, I use a flush trimmer. Now doing a test to see how things works accordingly, and I'm very satisfied with the result to see how everything is able to fit nicely without any stoppages before moving on to do the most exciting part, which is the ramp. So the ramp has an angle to be connected to the body itself, so I'm just cutting out and doing some test fit, and this is the straight part of the ramp. Alright, so before that, what I did was to actually make use of some plywood offcuts to build a model first to ensure that the angles and dimensions are all correct before moving on to cut using the actual material. So what you can see, what I'm doing over here is to do a double checking. So this double checking is to ensure that the dimension are all precise before I screw everything down to fix into the body. Yes, this is just my style of doing things because it's the first time I'm doing this ramp, so I want to ensure that I reduce any material wastage if there's any error. So this is how I do it. Alright, so joining them together, while it's not exactly my first time dealing with angle joinery, but still I am figuring out like what is a better way to do it. So that's why I make use of this braid nailer first to secure them. Okay, secure the whole pieces down before moving on to make use of the screws to screw the whole ram down. Alright, so the testing. So testing out how the whole pieces will look like. I secure the ram down to the body first. So you can see over here, this is how I actually do it, the whole process. Right, so the next part is to do the handrails, or I call the feet rails for the tortoise. Now the reason is because I do not want the tortoise to fall off. Well, it may look very silly, or you may laugh that, oh, what if the tortoise is fall and it fell on its back? Now it's not a good sight for the owner to see this thing that happened, so that's why this is some safety precaution for the tortoise. Before moving on to assembling of the wheels. Now this custom wheel, what I bought, and I actually use a special kind of nail to actually screw it down onto the carcass, so give it some good support as the whole structure is very heavy. And making use of a long piece of plywood, so the plywood help me to demarcate what is the exact dimension, how much should I be placing my wheels on the whole structure. Alright, so the next step is to secure the backing. So this backing is, as what you can see over here, is to prevent the tortoise from falling out. So this whole backing is also act as a structural integrity to hold the whole carcass. So the reason why I actually do a hole is because client requested that she want to put in the light bulb. So that's why this is to ensure that it's big enough for the normal power plug to fit inside. As what you see over here, I make use of some clamps to clamp it down. So this is to ensure that it will not shift. And last but not least, the assembly of the ramps. The built-in ramps with the safety feet handle. Now everything is slowly coming to place, and I'm quite happy to see how the whole structure internally is getting built like this. So just taking a video shoot. So next step is to cut some handles. So I make use of some remaining all cuts that I have to cut the panels for the tortoise house, and using the trimmer, I round the edge to fillets so that it will not scratch the hand of the user when the user is opening the door frames. Okay, this is how I secure the handles using a clamp to clamp things down instead of doing it freehand because I don't trust myself. Now, the latch lock that I bought and installed, now things look so good. And securing of the acrylic, that's what you can see over here. I'm wearing a glove. The purpose of why I wear the glove is to ensure that I do not leave any handprints or I do not scratch it. So these are some little details and some minor little things that I will take note of.